Captain Jake Morrison stood at the front window of his ship watching the alien fleet move toward Earth. The ships looked like giant sea creatures floating through space with their curved surfaces and strange lights. He had been fighting these aliens called the Zephyrians for 3 long years and knew their ships well. But today something felt different about the way they moved. The communication device on his control panel made a soft sound. Admiral Lisa Chen appeared on the screen, looking tired but alert. She had bags under her eyes from too many sleepless nights planning Earth's defense against these creatures from another world. "Captain Morrison, the aliens want to talk," she said in a flat voice. "They sent a message to Earth Command this morning, asking for peace talks." Jake felt his stomach twist into knots. In 3 years of war, the Zephyrians had never once tried to talk. They preferred to attack human colonies without warning and destroy everything in their path. Their method was always the same: overwhelming force followed by complete destruction of any human presence. "Admiral, with respect, this sounds like a trap," Jake said while keeping his eyes on the alien ships. "These creatures have killed millions of our people. They burned New Austin Colony to ash. They turned the mining stations at Europa into space. Tust. Now suddenly they want peace." Lisa nodded slowly. "I know, Jake. That is exactly what worries me and the Earth Council. The timing makes no sense at all. The truth was that the Zephyrians had been winning the war for the past 6 months. Their technology was more advanced than anything humans possessed. Their weapons could punch through Earth's strongest armor, like it was made of paper. Their ships moved faster than human vessels and could appear anywhere without warning. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Brooks walked onto the bridge carrying a thick folder of papers. He was the ship's expert on alien behavior and had spent months studying every piece of Zephyrian communication that Earth forces had intercepted during the war. "Captain, I have been reading their messages for weeks now," Ryan said while opening his folder. "Something changed in their communications about 2 months ago. They started using different words and different patterns when they talked to each other." Jake turned away from the window to look at Ryan. "What kind of changes?" "Before they always talked about crushing humans and taking our planets. But recently they started talking about something they call the final solution. They also mention preparation time and coordination between their fleets." Admiral Chen leaned forward on the communication screen. "Ryan, are you saying they might be planning something bigger than just these peace talks?" "Yes, Admiral. I think the peace talks are just the first step in a much larger plan. They keep mentioning a date that matches exactly with when they want to sign this peace treaty." The more Jake heard about this situation, the more his military instincts told him something was very wrong. He had survived 3 years of war by trusting those instincts, and they had never failed him before. "Admiral, who else knows about these communication intercepts?" Jake asked. "Only a few people in Earth Command. We have been keeping this information classified while we try to figure out what the aliens are really planning." The communication device made another sound and a new person appeared on the screen next to Admiral Chen. It was Dr. Elena Martinez, who worked as Earth's leading expert on alien psychology. She had written books about how different alien species thought and made decisions. "Captain Morrison and Admiral Chen Y have been studying everything we know about Zephyrian behavior," she said in her calm scientific voice. "Based on their past actions and their psychological patterns, I believe this peace offer is definitely a deception." Jake felt a cold feeling run down his back. If Dr. Martinez thought it was a trap, then it almost certainly was a trap. She had correctly predicted alien behavior dozens of times during the war. "Dr. Martinez, what do you think they are really planning?" Admiral Chen asked. "The Zephyrians have a very simple way of thinking about other species. They see all other life forms as either useful servants or obstacles to be removed. They have never in their entire history made a genuine peace agreement with anyone." She paused and looked directly at the camera. "Every time they have offered peace in the past, it was just a way to get their enemies to lower their guard before launching a surprise attack." Ryan nodded and held up one of his papers. "That matches what I found in their communications, Admiral. They keep using a phrase that translates roughly to final harvest." The 3 humans looked at each other through their communication screens. Each of them understood that Earth was facing something much more dangerous than just another battle. This was probably going to be the aliens' attempt to end the war by destroying humanity completely. Admiral, we need to start preparing for whatever they are really planning, Jake said. We cannot let them catch us off guard. I agree, Captain. But we also cannot let them know that we suspect anything. We need to play along with their peace talks while secretly getting ready for their real attack. Dr. Martinez cleared her throat. I recommend that we send a diplomatic team to the peace talks as they expect. But we should also position our military forces in ways that will surprise the aliens when they spring their trap. Admiral Chen thought for several long moments before speaking again. Captain Morrison, I want you to take your ship to Jupiter Station where the peace talks will happen. Officially, you will be there as part of the diplomatic security team, and unofficially, Admiral. Unofficially, you will be coordinating with our intelligence agents to figure out exactly what the Zephyrians are planning. We need to know their plan before they have a chance to execute it. Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Once again, Earth was depending on him and his crew to protect humanity from destruction, but this time felt different because the enemy was being sneaky instead of simply attacking with overwhelming force. Admiral, when do the peace talks begin? In 72 hours, Captain. That gives us 3 days to get ready for whatever trap they are setting for us. The communication ended and Jake stood alone on his bridge looking out at the alien ships. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrians were planning something that would probably determine whether humanity survived or joined the many other species that these creatures had wiped from existence. He walked over to his command chair and pressed the button that would alert his crew. All hands prepare for departure to Jupiter Station. We have a peace treaty to attend. Ambassador Kate Williams stepped off her transport ship and onto Jupiter Station, feeling nervous about the next few days. The station was a massive metal structure floating in space near the giant planet Jupiter. It had been built as a neutral meeting place where different species could talk without anyone having an advantage over the others. Major Tony Rodriguez walked beside her carrying a small weapon and watching everything around them with careful eyes. He was in charge of keeping the ambassador safe during the peace talks. Behind them came 6 more security guards who tried to look relaxed, but were ready to fight at any moment. Ambassador, the Zephyrian ships are much bigger than we expected, Tony said quietly so only she could hear him. Their main vessel is at least 3 times the size of anything in our fleet. Kate nodded while looking through the station windows at the alien ships. They looked even stranger up close with their organic curves and pulsing lights that changed color every few seconds. She had studied pictures of Zephyrian vessels for months, but seeing them in person made her understand why so many human colonies had fallen to these creatures. The station manager was a small, nervous man named Director Paul Chang, who met them at the docking port. He had been running Jupiter Station for 5 years and had never hosted such an important meeting between enemies who wanted to kill each other. Ambassador Williams, welcome to Jupiter Station, he said while shaking her hand. The Zephyrian delegation arrived 2 hours ago and they are settled in the east wing of the station. How many aliens came to the talks, Director Chang? Kate asked. Their leader is someone called War Commander Thexhai, along with 12 other Zephyrians. They brought a lot of equipment with them and asked for access to our computer systems to help with translation. Major Rodriguez stepped forward quickly. Director, what kind of access did you give them? Just basic translation software and communication protocols. Nothing that could affect station operations or security systems. Kate felt worried but tried not to show it on her face. Even basic computer access could be dangerous if the aliens were planning something sneaky. She made a mental note to ask Captain Morrison to check what the aliens were really doing with those computer systems. They walked through the station corridors toward the diplomatic meeting rooms. Jupiter Station was designed to be impressive, with high ceilings and large windows showing the beautiful view of Jupiter and its many moons. But today the place felt tense and dangerous instead of peaceful. Dr. Elena Martinez was waiting in the human delegation's quarters studying thick books about Zephyrian culture and psychology. She looked up when Kate entered the room and immediately saw the worry on the ambassador's face. Kate, how did the aliens seem when you saw their ships? She asked while closing her book. Confident, Elena. Much more confident than I expected for people who supposedly want peace. Dr. Martinez nodded thoughtfully. That matches what I've been reading about their behavior patterns. When Zephyrians are genuinely worried about losing a war, They become very quiet and withdrawn. But when they are planning something sneaky, they become bold and talkative. Major Rodriguez was looking out the window at the alien ships when he noticed something strange. "Ambassador, there are more Zephyrian vessels arriving every few hours. They told us they were only bringing one diplomatic ship, but I count at least 15 ships out there now." Kate joined him at the window and saw that he was right. The alien fleet was much larger than what they had agreed to for a peace negotiation. Each new ship that arrived made her more convinced that Dr. Martinez was right about this being some kind of trap. Agent Amy Foster appeared at the door of their quarters wearing the uniform of a station maintenance worker. She was one of Earth's best intelligence operatives and had been secretly working on Jupiter Station for 2 weeks, preparing for this meeting. "Ambassador, I need to speak with you privately," she said, while glancing around to make sure no one was listening. They walked into a small side room where Amy could talk without being overheard by anyone who might be spying on them. She pulled out a small electronic device that would prevent their conversation from being recorded. "Ambassador, there's you. Aliens have been asking the station staff very specific questions about Earth's military capabilities," Amy said in a whisper. "They want to know about our fleet sizes, our weapon types, and our defensive positions around Earth." "What kind of questions, Amy?" "They asked Director Chang how many ships Earth has in this sector. They asked the communications officer about our encryption methods. They even asked a janitor about how many people live on Earth and which cities have the most humans." Kate felt her heart beating faster. These were not the questions that people asked when they wanted to make peace. These were the questions that military planners asked when they were preparing to attack someone. "Amy, what else have you discovered?" "I planted listening devices in their quarters yesterday. The aliens think they are being very careful, but they do not understand human technology well enough to detect our surveillance equipment." Amy pulled out a small recording device and pressed a button. The voice that came out spoke in the harsh language of the Zephyrians, but a computer translation appeared on a small screen. "The humans suspect nothing, War Commander. Their defensive positions are exactly where our intelligence reports predicted. The final phase can begin as soon as the treaty signing ceremony provides the necessary distraction." Kate and Amy looked at each other with growing alarm. The recording continued with more alien voices discussing something they called monitoring stations and coordination with hidden fleet elements. "Amy, we need to get this information to Admiral Chen immediately. I already sent a coded message to Earth Command an hour ago, Ambassador. Admiral Chen knows that the aliens are planning something during the treaty ceremony." They returned to the main quarters where Dr. Martinez was still reading her books, and Major Rodriguez continued watching the alien ships through the window. Kate realized that she was going to have to pretend to believe in these peace talks, while knowing that the aliens were planning to use the ceremony as cover for some kind of attack. "Everyone listen carefully," she said to her team. "We are going to continue with these negotiations exactly as planned, but we are also going to assume that everything the aliens do is designed to hurt humanity." Dr. Martinez looked up from her book. "Kate, are you saying we should abandon the peace talks?" "No, Elena. We are going to give the aliens exactly what they think they want. We will act like we believe their lies about wanting peace. But while we do that, we will be getting ready for whatever they are really planning." Major Rodriguez turned away from the window. "Ambassador, what do you need us to do?" "Tony, I want you to coordinate with Agent Foster to find out everything we can about their real plans. Elena, I need you to keep studying their psychology so we can predict what they will do next." Kate walked to the window and looked out at the growing fleet of alien ships. Somewhere on those vessels, the Zephyrians were preparing for what they thought would be humanity's final defeat. But they had made one critical mistake in their planning. They had underestimated how smart humans could be when their survival was at stake. Admiral Lisa Chen sat in her command center deep beneath Earth's surface, watching dozens of screens that showed ships moving through space. She had just received Agent Foster's coded message about the alien plans and knew that humanity had very little time to prepare for what was coming. The Zephyrians thought they were being clever, but they had no idea that humans had been preparing for exactly this kind of situation. She pressed a button on her control panel that sent a secret signal to Commander Nick Davis, who was floating somewhere in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Nick had been waiting for this signal for over a year while commanding a hidden fleet that the aliens knew nothing about. Operation Mirror Shield is now active, she said into her microphone. All hidden units moved to positions around Jupiter Station immediately. The plan had been simple but required perfect timing and complete secrecy. For the past year, Earth had been building twice as many warships as they reported to their own government. Half of the human fleet was visible and known to everyone, including alien spies. The other half had been hidden in the asteroid belt, waiting for a moment exactly like this one. Commander Nick Davis received the signal while his ship drifted silently among the space rocks that circled the sun between Mars and Jupiter. Around him floated 60 of Earth's most advanced warships, all painted black, to blend with the darkness of space, and equipped with new cloaking technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. "All ships, this is Commander Davis," he said into his communication system. "Begin movement to Jupiter Station using Stealth Approach Pattern 7. Maintain radio silence until further orders." The hidden fleet began moving through space like deadly shadows, heading toward the location where the aliens thought they would spring their perfect trap. Each ship was crewed by volunteers who understood they might not survive the next few days but were willing to die to protect Earth from destruction. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was working with Chief Engineer Betty Shaw to modify Jupiter Station's systems without anyone noticing what they were doing. Betty was one of the smartest engineers in the human fleet and could make any piece of technology do things its original designers never imagined. "Captain, I have been studying the station's power grid for 3 days," she said while looking at complicated diagrams on her computer screen. "If we redirect power from the artificial gravity systems, we can create an electromagnetic pulse that will disable alien weapons and communications." "Betty, will that pulse affect our equipment too?" "I can shield our critical systems, Captain, but it will require me to crawl through maintenance tunnels and rewire half the station without anyone seeing me do it." Jake nodded, knowing that Betty would find a way to make it work. She always did when humanity needed her technical skills to solve impossible problems. "How long do you need?" "Give me 18 hours. Captain and I will turn this peaceful diplomatic station into the most effective trap the galaxy has ever seen." Agent Amy Foster was busy with her own part of the plan. She had discovered that the Zephyrians were not just planning to attack during the treaty ceremony. They were also planning to use the peace talks as a way to plant false information about Earth's military capabilities. She sat in a small room with her partner, Agent Carl Thompson, creating fake documents and computer files that would make the aliens believe Earth was much weaker than reality. If the Zephyrians wanted to steal human military secrets, then Amy would make sure they stole exactly the wrong information. "Carl, I need you to plant these files where the aliens will find them," she said while handing him a data storage device. "Make it look like you accidentally left classified information where their spies could discover it." Carl smiled because he enjoyed this kind of work. "Amy, what will happen when they read these fake reports?" "They will think Earth only has half as many ships as we actually possess. They will also think our weapons are less powerful than they really are, and that our defensive systems have weaknesses that do not exist." The false information was designed to make the aliens overconfident about their chances of success. When they finally revealed their true intentions, they would be expecting to fight a much weaker enemy than they would actually face. Dr. Elena Martinez continued her own important work by appearing genuinely hopeful about the peace negotiations. She attended every meeting with the Zephyrians and asked enthusiastic questions about cooperation between their species. Her job was to make War Commander Thexhai believe that humans were naive enough to trust alien promises. "War Commander, I am so excited about the cultural exchange programs we discussed," she said during one of their planning sessions. "Imagine what our species could accomplish working together." Thexhai made sounds that his translator turned into words about mutual prosperity and shared knowledge, but Dr. Martinez could see in his eyes that he was thinking about something completely different. She had studied alien psychology long enough to recognize the look of a predator planning to attack unsuspecting prey. Colonel Steve Parker was coordinating with Marine Commander Lisa Torres to position elite strike teams throughout Jupiter Station. If the aliens tried to take control of the station during their planned betrayal, they would discover that every corridor and room contained hidden human soldiers ready to fight. Lisa, I want your best fighters in the main ceremony hall, Steve said while looking at station blueprints. When the aliens make their move, we need to capture their leadership before they can signal their fleet. Colonel, my Marines have been studying the layout for days. We know every hiding spot, every air vent, and every emergency exit. If shooting starts, we will control the entire station within minutes. The Marines were disguised as station maintenance workers and diplomatic staff. They carried concealed weapons and had memorized the positions of every Zephyrian on the station. When the moment came, they would move faster than the aliens could react. Ambassador Kate Williams met with War Commander HFY every day to discuss the details of their peace treaty. She had to pretend to believe his lies, while secretly documenting every piece of tactical information he accidentally revealed during their conversations. Ambassador Williams, your species shows wisdom in choosing cooperation over continued warfare, the alien leader said through his translation device. War Commander HFY humanity has always preferred peace to violence, Kate replied while thinking about the hidden fleet moving through space toward their location. She noticed that the alien kept asking questions about Earth's population centers and industrial facilities. He wanted to know which human cities built the most spaceships and which planets produced the most food. These were not questions that someone asked when planning peaceful cooperation. The treaty ceremony was scheduled to begin in less than 24 hours. Both sides were making their final preparations, but only one side knew what was really going to happen. The Zephyrians believed they were about to win the war through deception and surprise attack. They had no idea that every aspect of their plan was known to their enemies, and that humanity had spent months preparing the perfect counter-trap. The aliens thought they were hunting unsuspecting prey, but they were actually walking into the most carefully planned ambush in galactic history. The great ceremony hall of Jupiter Station was filled with cameras and recording equipment as representatives from both species prepared to sign what everyone believed would be a historic peace treaty. Ambassador Kate Williams sat at a polished metal table wearing her best diplomatic uniform while trying to look hopeful about the future of human-alien relations. War-Commander HFY entered the hall surrounded by his 12 advisors, who were all much larger than humans and covered in the thick gray skin that was common among their species. The alien leader wore ceremonial armor decorated with symbols that represented his many victories over other civilizations that had tried to resist Zephyrian expansion. Hundreds of people throughout human space were watching the ceremony on their communication screens, believing they were witnessing the end of a terrible war. Parents held their children close and talked about how peaceful the galaxy would become now that the fighting was over. None of them knew that this ceremony was actually the beginning of humanity's greatest battle for survival. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the wall of the ceremony hall wearing his dress uniform, but keeping his hand close to the weapon hidden beneath his jacket. Around the room he could see other human security officers, who were also ready to fight at any moment. Major Tony Rodriguez was positioned near the main entrance where he could watch both the human delegation and their alien guests. War-Commander HFY began speaking in his harsh alien language, while his translation device converted his words into human speech. He talked about the benefits of cooperation between species and how much both civilizations could accomplish working together instead of fighting each other. Citizens of Earth today marks a new beginning for our peoples, the translation device announced in a mechanical voice. The Zephyrian Collective offers friendship and mutual prosperity to humanity. Ambassador Williams smiled and nodded at the appropriate moments while secretly counting the number of alien guards in the room. She had memorized every detail of the planned human response and knew that the next few minutes would determine whether her species survived or joined the many other civilizations that the Zephyrians had destroyed. Dr. Elena Martinez sat in the front row of observers taking notes about alien behavior and body language. She noticed that several of the Zephyrian advisors kept looking at their wrist devices as if they were waiting for some kind of signal. Their posture was tense and ready for action despite their leader's words about peace and friendship. The ceremony continued with speeches from both sides about the wonderful future they would build together. War Commander HFY presented Kate with a ceremonial gift that was supposed to represent eternal friendship between their species. She accepted it gracefully while wondering if it contained some kind of hidden weapon or listening device. Agent Amy Foster was monitoring alien communications from a hidden position in the station's technical areas. She could hear the Zephyrians talking to their ships using a secret frequency that they thought humans could not detect. Their real messages were very different from the peaceful words being spoken in the ceremony hall. All fleet units prepare. For final phase initiation came the translated alien transmission. Target coordinates confirmed for major human population centers. Monitoring stations will activate immediately following treaty conclusion. Amy quickly sent this information to Admiral Chen on Earth and to Commander Davis with the hidden human fleet. The aliens were planning to begin their attack within minutes of signing the peace treaty. Everything was happening exactly as humanity had predicted. Chief Engineer Betty Shaw was in the station's power control room, making final preparations for her electromagnetic pulse weapon. She had spent 2 days rewiring critical systems and was ready to disable all alien equipment on the station with the press of a single button. The treaty signing ceremony reached its climactic moment as both leaders stood up to place their signatures on the official document. War Commander Thexhai held an ornate writing instrument that was actually a concealed communication device designed to send the attack signal to his waiting fleet. Captain Morrison watched carefully as the alien leader raised his ceremonial weapon toward the treaty document. This was the moment when Thexhai would signal his ships to begin the surprise attack on Earth, while human attention was focused on the peaceful ceremony. Just as the war commander was about to activate his hidden signaling device, Captain Morrison stepped forward and spoke in a calm, clear voice that could be heard throughout the ceremony hall. War Commander Thexhai, please do not bother sending that signal to your fleet. Every person in the room turned to stare at the human captain who had just interrupted the most important diplomatic event in galactic history. The alien leader froze, with his signaling device halfway to the treaty document while his advisors began reaching for their weapons. "What are you talking about, Captain Morrison?" Ambassador Williams said while playing her part in the planned deception perfectly. Ambassador, the war commander was about to signal his hidden fleet to begin attacking Earth. The moment he pretended to sign our peace treaty, Admiral Lisa Chen appeared on the large viewing screens that surrounded the ceremony hall. She was broadcasting from Earth Command and looked directly at the alien delegation with the expression of complete confidence. "War Commander Thexhai, humanity has known about your trap from the very beginning," she announced to everyone watching. "We intercepted your communications, decoded your plans, and prepared appropriate responses to your intended betrayal." The alien leader made harsh sounds that his translator could not convert into human words. His gray skin changed color to a darker shade that indicated extreme anger and surprise among his species. The other Zephyrians in the room began moving toward their weapons, but stopped when they realized they were surrounded by armed humans. Another screen activated showing Commander Nick Davis floating in space near Jupiter. Behind him were dozens of human warships that had appeared from nowhere and completely surrounded the Zephyrian fleet. "War Commander, your bioships are currently disabled by quantum mines that we attached to their hulls while you were focused on your deception," Commander Davis reported. "Any attempt to move or fire weapons will result in the complete destruction of your fleet." War Commander Thexhai realized that his perfect plan had become a perfect disaster. The weak humans had somehow anticipated every aspect of his strategy and turned his own trap into a devastating defeat for the Zephyrian collective. Agent Carl Thompson appeared on another screen, showing the monitoring stations that the aliens had planned to establish throughout human space. Each station was surrounded by human ships and completely under Earth's control. "We also intercepted your real treaty, War Commander," Agent Thompson announced. "The one that would have given your species military bases throughout our territory disguised as peaceful observation posts." The alien leader looked around the ceremony hall and saw that every exit was blocked by human soldiers. His advisors were disarmed and surrounded. His fleet was captured and helpless. Everything he had planned to accomplish through deception had been turned against him by the supposedly primitive species. From Earth, Chief Engineer Betty Shaw activated her electromagnetic pulse and every piece of Zephyrian equipment in the station stopped working immediately. The aliens found themselves unable to communicate with each other or with any ships that might have escaped the human trap. War-Commander HFY finally understood that he had catastrophically underestimated human intelligence and military capability. The species he had planned to destroy had outmaneuvered him so completely that the Zephyrian collective now faced total defeat. War Commander HFY sat in the holding cell aboard Captain Morrison's ship, staring at the metal walls that surrounded him. 3 days had passed since his perfect plan had collapsed into complete disaster, and he still could not understand how the primitive humans had defeated the mighty Zephyrian collective so easily. Admiral Lisa Chen arrived at Jupiter Station to personally oversee the surrender negotiations. She walked into the temporary command center that had been set up in one of the station's meeting rooms, where Ambassador Kate Williams was waiting, with a thick folder containing the terms of Zephyrian defeat. "Admiral, the alien fleet commanders are ready to discuss surrender," Kate said while opening her folder. "They want to know what options humanity will give them." "What options do they think they have?" Ambassador Lisa replied while looking through the reports of captured alien ships and defeated military units. "They tried to trick us into lowering our guard so they could destroy our entire species." The truth was that the Zephyrian military machine had been completely broken by humanity's countertrap. Every major fleet had been captured or destroyed. Their military leaders were prisoners. Their home planets were surrounded by human ships and cut off from all outside communication. Commander Nick Davis reported that alien resistance throughout their former territory had collapsed within hours of learning about their leadership's capture. Species that had been enslaved by the Zephyrians for centuries were celebrating their freedom and asking to join a human-led alliance for mutual protection. Dr. Elena Martinez was appointed as the chief negotiator for the surrender terms because she understood alien psychology better than anyone else in the human government. She sat across from the highest-ranking Zephyrian prisoner who was called Subcommander Vextal and had been HFY's most trusted advisor. "Subcommander Vextal, your species has 2 choices," she said in the calm voice she used when explaining complicated ideas. "You can surrender completely and accept integration into a peaceful galactic community under human supervision." The alien made harsh sounds that indicated he was listening, but not happy about what he was hearing. "The second choice is that humanity destroys every Zephyrian ship and military installation in the galaxy, leaving your people defenseless against all the other species you have attacked over the centuries." Subcommander Vextal understood immediately that the second option would mean extinction for his species. The Zephyrians had made too many enemies during their long history of conquest and destruction. Without their military power to protect them, they would be wiped out by vengeful civilizations seeking revenge. Ambassador Williams worked with Dr. Martinez to create the official surrender document that would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. The terms were harsh but fair, considering what the aliens had tried to do to humanity. The Zephyrian collective would be dissolved and replaced by individual planet governments that reported to a human oversight council. All alien military forces would be disbanded except for small defense units needed to maintain local order. Former Zephyrian territory would be divided among the species they had conquered, with humans keeping strategic locations for monitoring purposes. Most importantly, the surrender agreement required cultural exchange programs designed to teach Zephyrian citizens about cooperation and peaceful coexistence instead of conquest and domination. Dr. Martinez would personally oversee these programs to prevent future wars. Captain Morrison was given command of a new ship called the UES Peacekeeper, which would lead a permanent patrol fleet throughout the former Zephyrian territory. His job was to make sure that no other aggressive species tried to take advantage of the power vacuum left by alien defeat. The news of humanity's victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy, creating reactions that surprised even Earth's leaders. Dozens of smaller civilizations that had been hiding from Zephyrian expansion suddenly revealed themselves and asked to join the human-led Alliance for Protection. Agent Amy Foster was promoted to Director of Galactic Intelligence with responsibility for monitoring potential threats and preventing future surprise attacks against Earth or its allies. Her network of spies and surveillance systems would ensure that no other species could plan the kind of deception that the Zephyrians had attempted. Chief Engineer Betty Shaw became the head of a new technology sharing program that would help former Zephyrian slave species rebuild their civilizations using advanced human engineering knowledge. She was particularly excited about working with species that had unique scientific abilities that could benefit everyone. War Commander Thexai was eventually transferred to a comfortable prison facility on Earth, where he would spend the rest of his life studying human culture and writing reports about his experiences. His writings became required reading for anyone who wanted to understand how overconfidence and underestimating enemies could lead to devastating military defeat. Years passed and the galaxy settled into a new pattern of peace enforced by human military strength, but guided by human values of cooperation and mutual respect. The Zephyrian trap had backfired so completely that it established humanity as the dominant protective force in their region of space. Dr. Martinez often visited former Zephyrian worlds to check on the progress of cultural integration programs. She was amazed by how quickly most aliens adapted to peaceful cooperation once they were no longer forced to participate in military conquest. Many former soldiers became teachers and engineers who helped rebuild the civilizations their armies had once destroyed. Commander Vextal eventually became a liaison officer working with human administrators to help other Zephyrians understand their new place in the galactic community. He often reflected on how his species had made the critical mistake of assuming that military technology was more important than intelligence and strategic thinking. The peace treaty that was finally signed was very different from what either side had originally planned. Instead of Zephyrian monitoring stations throughout human space, there were human peacekeeping bases throughout former alien territory. Instead of humanity being weakened and eventually destroyed, the galaxy's most aggressive empire had been permanently defeated by careful planning and superior tactics. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of his new ship, looking out at a convoy of vessels carrying supplies and teachers to worlds that were learning how to live without fear of conquest. The Zephyrians had taught the galaxy an important lesson about the dangers of underestimating species that seemed less advanced. Ambassador Williams wrote the final report about the failed alien deception and its consequences for galactic politics. Her document became the foundation for new diplomatic protocols that assumed all peace offers from aggressive species were potential traps until proven otherwise. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to see through deception and the courage to protect others from those who would exploit them. Humanity had won the war not through superior firepower but through superior intelligence and the determination to defend their values against all threats. War Commander Thexai spent his remaining years wondering how his supposedly perfect plan had become the foundation for his enemy's greatest victory and his own species' complete transformation from conquerors to students learning the difficult art of peace.